Part 50. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi Y. Chapter 491. Kyunjun has always been Bai Kyunchun's most satisfactory assistant since his previous life, so it is perfect to be her assistant in life. As for Wei Liang Chen, she gave him the same position as Lu Feng beside De Rong, specializing in intrigues. There are still many traitors in the 9th Legion who have not yet been dealt with. After the 9th Legion is integrated, other legions will also be looking at them. It will be very troublesome if you don't have a brain around you at this time, so Wei Liangchen is good at conspiracy and can also handle them. It is necessary for people to have bad brains. Moreover, this job is also suitable for Wei Liangchen's temperament of making troubles and troubles. The most important thing is that he also likes to do this job of scheming. No, as soon as Wei Liangchen was stamped by De Rong as Bai Kyunchun's adjutant, he was ready to do something big as his own certificate of nomination, and to prove that he was capable of being an adjutant with real power. I saw his eyes staring at the optical brain reflecting the blue light. Looking at the content above, he suddenly raised the corners of his thin lips and said, "The fish is hooked." His voice was not loud, but several people in the office heard it clearly, and several pairs of eyes suddenly looked over. De Rong's eyes were bright and full of curiosity. What fish is hooked? Wei Liangchen turned off his optical brain and looked towards them, with a gentle smile on his face, but the words he spat out were shocking. Admiral Zhou is ready to attack Sister Chun. What? De Rong was shocked. Even Lu Feng was a little surprised. Since Bai Zhuangquan was captured, he has controlled all the intelligence in the 9th Legion these days. Of course, the most important thing is Zhou. He deliberately placed all the informants around Zhou. It was activated just to prevent Zhou from jumping over the wall in a hurry at this last moment. But now that he hasn't received any news yet, the young man in front of him actually already knows what's going on with Zhou. Of course, Lu Feng did not suspect that Wei Liangchen's news was false. Instead, his eyes were full of inquiry. None of the informants he arranged came out about Zhou's unusual movements. How did this young man know that Zhou was going to take action? Lu Feng remained immobile and prepared to give this junior a chance to perform. Wei Liangchen did not disappoint him next. In the afternoon, due to the civil war in the Orc Empire, news came from Fox 14, who was still a guest in the Huayao Empire. He wanted to meet Bai Jianchun, the savior, and De Yan, the son of Marshal De Rong, because Fox 14 saw things in the Fox. It was a coincidence that after signing a peace agreement with Fox 14, the Huayao Empire tried its best to help him find his lost son. Who knew that after following the clues, they would find Bai Jianchun and De Yan? The skinny kid whom Bai Jianchun and De Yan rescued on the starship heading to the main star for the exam was suspected to be the son of Fox 14, the little prince of the Orc Empire, so Fox 14 wanted to find them in person, understand situation. The reason was very reasonable, and coupled with the importance of Hu Shizi and Hu Li to the future establishment of diplomatic relations between the two empires, Bai Jianchun had no reason to refuse. Now Fox 14 is placed in the logistics team of the 1st Legion. On a logistics star more than 10 light-years away from the 9th Legion, Bai Jianchun and the others must pass through a small meteorite zone if they want to go there. It's not dangerous, but it's remote enough. And Zhou planned to take action here. However, to Zhou's expectation, not only were some people from the 2nd Legion who he had secretly contacted and conspired with ambushed here, but also the right-wing legion of the Orc Empire appeared, and their target was all Bai Jianchun. Zhou was confused when he saw the right-wing army of the Orc Empire. Unlike Bai Zhuangquan, a selfish lunatic who would surrender to the enemy and treason as long as he could survive, Zhou was promoted to general after fighting life and death with the Orc Empire, and he had no treasonous thoughts, so he was shocked at that time. Just when he was torn between whether he should simply help the tyrants and help the right-wing army of the Orc Empire to kill Bai Jianchun, and then put all the blame on the right-wing forces of the Orc Empire, or take the opportunity to save Bai Jianchun and make meritorious service. His allies joined forces with the orcs. The Empire's right-wing army launched an attack on the battleship Bai Jianchun was riding. And he could see that his allies had a cooperative relationship with the right-wing army of the Orc Empire. Zhou had a sinister look on his face and even went crazy with anger. How could he not see that his allies had already secretly hooked up with the right wing of the Orc Empire and treated him like a fool? But now he is riding a tiger. Even if he wants to clear up his relationship with the Orc Empire, he can't. He has already entered the game when he showed up with his people to ambush Bai Jianchun. He originally planned to kill Bai Jianchun with a blitzkrieg. Jianchun's plan to leave later was completely impossible to succeed after the right wing of the Orc Empire joined, because as long as the Orc Legion was involved, the movement would be bigger. With a pale face, Zhou questioned Shui Ziyu across from him, and said gloomily, "Are you plotting against me?" Mizusawa had a handsome and feminine face. At this moment, his eyes were red and treacherous, and he smiled coldly. "How can you say that I am plotting against you? I am helping you. You can't survive in the Huayao Empire anyway, so why not come with me to the Orc Empire to hang out, and maybe you can fight back with me to occupy Huayao. When the time comes, I will ask the Fox King to give you a duke." Zhou frowned, staring at the person opposite him with a low pressure, his eyes glaring. "There's something wrong with you. If I'm desperate, what about you? The second young master of the Duke's family won't be desperate and defect to the enemy, right?" Mizusawayu's expression suddenly became crazy, his eyes turned scarlet, and he couldn't control his temper and began to curse. "I don't call this defection, I call it abandoning the dark and turning to the bright. I can only find a way out by following the Orc Empire. What kind of bullshit second young master I am now? My old and immortal father gave all the military power to my eldest brother and only left me in the world. Logistics team, why am I better than my eldest brother? Why does he rely on his eldest brother and hand over the military power to my eldest brother just because he was born a few years earlier than me? And my useless idiot son has been praised since he was a child. A double star of the Cheng Shui family, but his secret was revealed as soon as he took the first military academy exam. He couldn't please the old man, and I wasted so many years supporting him with so many resources. Okay, stop scolding, now it's important to kill that little bitch Bai Jianchun." Zhou Angzhen became more and more suspicious that something was wrong with Shui Ziyu's current situation. He heard a charming and seductive female voice. Then he saw a very coquettish hand with red nails on the screen put on Shui Ziyu's shoulder. A seductive woman smiled coquettishly. She appeared on camera and sat on Mizusawayu's lap, snuggling into his arms with her body weak and boneless, her red lips curled up ambiguously, and her pair of fox eyes extremely charming and alluring. Then she turned her head and looked over with a pair of fox eyes, as if she was standing in front of him through the screen to seduce him. Zhou mind was in a state of turmoil, and his eyes were fixed on the woman across from him with an expression of obsession. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 492. After the arrival of the woman, Mizusawayu slowly calmed down from his gradually crazy and out of control emotions. He held the woman in his arms with one hand, looked down at the woman in his arms with still scarlet eyes, lowered his head and kissed her cheek, smiling. She coaxed slyly, "Don't worry, Meyer. We have set up a dragnet here. That little bitch Bai Jianchun who ruined your plan cannot escape. She must die here today." As he spoke, he raised his head and gave the command with sinister eyes, "Intensify the artillery fire and output it with all your strength. I will make that little bitch shatter into pieces and become dust in the universe." Zhou was frightened by his vicious words, and his mind suddenly returned to clarity. He suddenly looked at the woman opposite with a little more vigilance and fear. Hu Lingmei glanced at him and curled her lips with a sweet smile. What a pity. Zhou turned away his eyes and felt a thump in his heart. Then he pursed his lips and had some guesses about the woman's identity. At the same time, he was also frantically thinking about an escape route in his mind. Unfortunately, the battlefield is changing rapidly and time waits for no one. Before Zhou Ang could figure out the reason, the battleship that was originally carrying Bai Qianchun was defeated by the fierce fire. She retreated and fled. Instead of retreating, she advanced and began to fight back. At the same time, 3 larger battleships appeared behind her. The dark red color was easy to identify. They were the Phoenix battleships of the 3rd Legion. Looking around again, Zhou Ang was startled again. Because they were unknowingly surrounded by the warships of the Huayao Empire. They were surrounded not only by the warships of the 9th Army, but also by the 1st Army, the 2nd Army, the 4th Army, and the 31st Army. Almost half of the Huayao Empire's legions were involved, and there were no less than 100 warships. The scene was extremely spectacular and majestic. Comparatively speaking, the more than 30 battleships from the right wing of the Orc Empire that were surrounded in the middle were like surrounded beasts. Even though they showed their teeth and claws and were very fierce, it was just a fight between trapped beasts. Zhou Ang knew that he was finished when he saw the Phoenix battleship appearing behind Bai Qianchun's battleship. Mizusawadake is finished. These battleships of the right wing of the Orc Empire are also finished. On the opposite screen, Fox Spirit May's eyes widened in astonishment, and her whole body turned pale in horror. After that, things went as Zhou Ang expected. Under the siege of the Huayao Empire, even if the right-wing army of the Orc Empire resisted and struggled, they could not make a difference. The siege ended in just about an hour. It ends with the victory of Huayao Empire. A clearing on the logistics asteroid. Bai Qianchun gave Wei Liangchen a thumbs up. He lured the snake out of the cave. Starting from Zhou Ang, he pulled out the spies buried deepest in the Huayao Empire, like pulling out carrots and strings. The main force of the right wing of the Orc Empire were all captured. For this battle to go so smoothly, Wei Liangchen, the main planner, deserves the most credit. Marshal De Rong surrounded Wei Liangchen and praised him as if his good words were free of charge. Even Lu Feng showed a resigned expression. It was really better to learn from someone who was better than someone who was inferior. Today's young people are much better at planning than him. Wei Liangchen still stood there like a orchid tree, with a gentle smile and a beautiful scenery. It was completely unimaginable that he was full of deep thoughts and was actually the biggest planner who planned this, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Zhou Ang, who was being escorted past, looked decadent and depressed after hearing this, looked towards Wei Liangchen in shock, and struggled excitedly, it's you who plotted against me. You already knew that Shuizuoyu was being spied on, are you plotting against me? Wei Liangchen looked at him and smiled elegantly, Admiral Zhou, you are wrong. It was not me who contributed to this victory, but you. If you didn't have such great ambitions and didn't want to attack and kill Bai Miss, then this plan will not be so successful. And this is not due to me alone. The news of your abnormal movements was analyzed by Qinjun from small details. The collusion between you and Shui Ziyu was discovered by Lord Feng. As for the spies of the Orc Empire, she is her own the one who took the bait. I didn't expect to catch such a big fish, and she could actually command the Orc Empire's right-wing legion. The news that the Orc Empire's right-wing legion was secretly lurking was discovered by Viscount Su Lianhua of the Orc Empire. Several factors combined being together led to our current success, which I never expected. He spread his hands and smiled modestly, but Zhou Ang was still so angry that he vomited blood. He would rather this matter was a person's calculation, so he fell into trouble, but now this kid told him that everything was luck, everything was a coincidence, and he was just unlucky. Zhou Ang was so angry that he spit out a mouthful of blood and wanted to scold his mother with hatred. But no matter what, he still couldn't escape the punishment of trial and death, and all the soldiers of the 9th Legion who followed him to ambush Bai Qianchun were all liquidated. Bai Qianchun, who was kept in the dark, mercifully spared their lives and only removed them from the 9th Legion and sentenced them to jail according to their crimes. As for the few confidants who knew Zhou Ang's plan, Bai Qianchun was not the virgin White Lotus. With Fen Yuyu insisting on accompanying him, he personally watched them be executed on the asteroid square. As for Shui Ziyu, the prisoners of the right wing of the Orc Empire, and the captured woman, who was the deepest spy buried in the Huayao Empire, and the biological mother of the second prince Qin Yujin, Hu Lingmei, were handed over to Qin Yuchen, and several major the leader of the Legion and Fox 14 participated in the trial in person. Huayao's several large legions gathered together to interrogate several skilled people like a competition. One by one, the other was serious, scrambling to pry a lot of things out of those people's mouths. For example, after Hu Lingmei sneaked back to the Huayao Empire for the 3rd time, she became Shui Ziyu's little lover. After the second Prince Qin Yujin was exposed, she simply gave Shui Ziyu red silk cells and used hypnosis to control him, making him she obeyed. Mizusawayu was not a member of the Legion at first, so he was lucky to escape the screening of attract ants. Later, under the influence of Hu Lingmei, he begged the Shui family's master and let him go to the battlefield with him. Although his position in the 4th Army was not high, he could know because he was the second young master of the Shui family. There is a lot of information. The person who contacted Bai Zhuangquan before and told him Bai Qianchun's true identity was Mizusawayu, who calculated that Bai Qianchun's logistics team would enter the asteroid occupied by the Orc army and die. Later, he was the one who betrayed the deployment of the Huayao Empire's legions several times and allowed the Orc Empire's right wing to make several successful sneak attacks. This time, he ambushed Bai Qianchun and united with the right wing of the Orc Empire. He calculated that Zhou Ang planned to recruit him to the Orc Empire. Although Mizusawayu was controlled by Fox Spirit Mei, every mistake he made was outrageous, and each one was enough to be sentenced to death. But in the end, for the sake of the Shui family leader, and because he was controlled, therefore, the death penalty can be avoided, but the living crime cannot be escaped. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for betrayal. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 493. As for Hu Lingmei, this woman was a troublemaker in the Huayao Empire and should not be underestimated. They were afraid that she would cause trouble again, so they simply executed her on the spot without giving her any punishment. Leave no chance of escape. The face of the fox spirit is charming and seductive to death, with a pair of eyes wide open and full of unwillingness. Bai Qianchun raised the corners of her mouth slightly, looking away from her fox eyes, and then focused on the podium. The only ones left in the square were tens of thousands of captives from the Orc Empire's right wing. Some of them were seriously injured or slightly injured. The square was filled with the smell of blood and painful wails. But even though they were injured like this, they were still difficult to take care of. If Qin Yuchen hadn't been so vigilant from the beginning and asked the soldiers to drive around in mechas to watch them, he might have actually asked them to break through the siege with brute force and escape. Woolen cloth. How about handing them back and letting the Orc Empire handle it? Chen Hongtian suggested. If all these orcs were killed, the ground of this asteroid would be dyed red with their blood. It would be too bloody and cruel. The most important thing is that Huayao really wants to sign a peace agreement with the Orc Empire and establish diplomatic relations from then on. Hello everyone, hello everyone. They have enjoyed peace for about a year. They like a world without war so much. Although these orcs are right-wing prisoners, they must still have relatives and friends in the Orc Empire. If they are all killed, this is a critical moment for the establishment of peaceful diplomatic relations. There is no guarantee that their remaining relatives and friends in the Orc Empire will cause trouble and increase the number of enemies. Hinder. Therefore, it is best to hand it over to the left wing of the Orc Empire and let them handle it internally. Whether it is life or death, it is also their internal matter and has nothing to do with their Huayao Empire. And even if they were spared a small life and handed over to the leftists of the Orc Empire, they might not be able to get a good deal. One mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. When Fox 14 returns, these right-wing people who are loyal to the fake Fox King will be a thorn in the side of the left. Even if they survive, they will not have a good time in the Orc Empire. Fen Yuya frowned and retorted dissatisfied, "No, they ambushed my wife. If my wife hadn't been smart enough to know their plan in advance, then their plan would have succeeded. If they weren't allowed to let them go back if you pay a price, they still think that my Feng family and my wife are weak and easy to bully." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched around as they listened. "Are you two weaklings? Haha, what kind of joke are you kidding?" He raised his hand and killed 3 birds with 1 stone. He killed Zhou, the spy, and the right-wing army of the Orc Empire and wiped them out. Is this called a soft bun? Let's call it Benja's stone buns. Shui Chongshan, the old man of the Shui family, furrowed the deep wrinkles on his brows majestically, and his weathered eyes shot sharply at him, teaching him a lesson, "Boy of the Feng family, don't mess around. This is all for the sake of the empire. Don't destroy the relationship between the two empires for your own selfish desires. Of peace." Fen Yuyu heard the voice, looked at him contemptuously, and said angrily, "Master Shui, this is serious. Who can compare to you for your own selfish desires? Shui Ziyu has done so much to betray our Hua family regarding Yao, why didn't you guarantee for him because he is your son and save his life? I would say that a person with a weak will like him would be controlled by hypnosis for the first time. To control the second time, it is better to kill them early and end the problem earlier, so as not to leave such a big hidden danger to our empire." Shui Chongshan glared angrily, breathing heavily, his white goatee trembling. Fen Yuyu was not afraid of being scalded by boiling water, and he proudly stared back with his chest raised. There were snickers all around. Shui Zhongtian, an old man who had accumulated power for so long, was now being criticized in front of a young man. Why were they so happy watching it? Bai Qianchun stood by and watched enough of the show, and stopped Fen Yuyu with a raised lip. "Okay, Mr. Shui is getting old and is about to retire, but because of that useless son, we, as juniors, can't be too it's hard for him, he is unlucky enough to have such a son." The arrogant Fen Yuyu immediately restrained his claws and nodded obediently. "Okay, I will listen to you, wife." The elders around him who knew his true nature were amazed. A man with a wife was different. There are also many people who are still feeling sour and regretful. If they knew that this potential boy from the Feng family would listen to his wife so much after getting married, they would have let their daughters compete for jobs long ago. Only Shui Chongshan and the Shui family were very angry. The Feng family boy has a venomous mouth, and his wife is not an economical person either. She is trying to trick the old man in a roundabout way. But she didn't give the old man a chance to get angry. After the couple finished singing and mixing with each other, she stopped looking at the old man from the Shui family. Instead, she turned to Qin Yuchen and said, "But the old man from the Shui family is right about one thing. Now is the time of two during the critical period of establishing diplomatic relations between the empire. Although I am a victim, I can't be so ignorant. Otherwise, we both take a step back. I don't want any other compensation, just let the Orc Empire compensate me with some labor force. Bar. There is a small labor force on my Jupiter planet. I have made a lot of star coins before. I plan to invest all the star coins to build the entire Jupiter planet. Therefore, there is still a shortage of people who can move rocks and chop wood. The orcs are very strong, so they should pay me 1800 and serve me as a slave." Qin Yuchen and the leaders of other surrounding legions glanced at her appreciatively. "The little girl is not bad. I thought she was asking for some huge compensation, but I didn't expect it to be this. It requires 1,800 slaves. This is easy to handle. There are so many orc captives. Just pick a few and go there without harming their interests. Only Fenyuyu was still standing by and asked with concern, those orcs eat a lot if they go back, even if we just give them nutrient solution, it will be a loss. Bai Jianchun glanced at him with a chuckle and said comfortingly, don't worry, I have a solution. I recently developed a new pill called Bigo pill. One pill will make your stomach full. For orcs with big appetites, just 2 pills. The raw materials are not expensive, and you can get 100 of them for just 10 pentagrams, so raising them is effortless. Fenyuyu's eyes lit up and she praised, she is indeed my wife. The people from other legions around were jealous after hearing this. How could they be so capable of a golden doll? Why did the Feng family boy take advantage of him? In the end, Bai Qianchun's proposal was unanimously approved, and even Shui Chongshan had to agree. After all, her request was reasonable and did not cause any trouble to them. Qin Yuchen also specially asked people to select the orcs with the least serious crimes, strong bodies and sound hands and feet for her. He even collected 1,000 orcs for her, a total of 1,000. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 494. The main force of the right wing of the Orc Empire was captured, and after several leaders were executed, all the prisoners were handed over to the left army of the Orc Empire for disposal. In the next more than a month, with the joint efforts of the Huayao Empire Legion and the Orc Empire Left Legion, all the remaining rightists were captured and eliminated. Fox 14 took Queen Qifen and the recovered Prince Huli, escorted by Su Lianhua and Qin Shaiyu, and officially returned to the Orc Empire. Then he wore the Fox King crown and issued an official declaration on behalf of the Orc Empire with Huayao. The empire established diplomatic relations. The video of Fox 14 and the Imperial Prince Qin Yuchen signing a peace agreement and shaking hands was also circulated in the two empires and quickly topped the list of trending searches. It is estimated that this news will be an irreplaceable hot topic in the two empires for more than half a month in the future. Just when the empire was in a happy and peaceful atmosphere, several legions of the Huayao Empire were enveloped in joy and entered the honeymoon period. Putting aside the previous competition for resources, after arranging border garrison, it seemed that they had agreed likewise. Dozens of legions returned to the main star together, and tens of thousands of warships sailed in the universe. The scene was extremely spectacular. They were also extremely carefree and happy along the way. From time to time they would hang out with each other's battleships, and from time to time they would leave the team together to clean up the rampant interstellar pirates around them. Even the greedy wolf star was cleaned up. Bai Jianchun had nothing to do and left the team with Fenyuyu and Qinjun, and went to the long-famous Tanlangxing. During the period, he accidentally entered the free trading market of Tanlangxing and discovered something. The interesting thing is that her name was actually blacklisted on the greedy wolf star free trading market. Wei Liangchen is even worse. There is a conspicuous billboard directly at Tanlangxing Airport that reads, "Young Master Yuan and dogs are not allowed to enter." The bounty on Master Yuan's body is 1 billion star coins. The moment Bai Jianchun saw it, she really wanted Wei Liangchen to take a fake death potion and exchange it for the bounty, but she held back based on her own conscience. However, she had a conscience, but Wei Liangchen himself did not. He eagerly suggested that Bai Jianchun would provide the medicine and he would provide the medicine, and the reward would be 50% to 50%. Compared with Bai Jianchun, who has already made a lot of money, Wei Liangchen is still poor. Back then, he was able to offend several big forces in Tanlangxing single-handedly and deceive them. Now he has such a good opportunity. He has no reason not to lie. In the end, Bai Jianchun couldn't resist the temptation, and she actually cooperated with him and planned to take his corpse of fake death to the free trading market in exchange for a bounty. It's just a pity that it didn't succeed in the end. At that time, the free trading market was holding an auction. The news that Wei Liangchen was the adjutant of the White Duke's heir in the 9th Legion was sold in public by someone with knowledge, and he also sold it for 10 million star coins. High price. Now all the forces in Greedy Wolf Star knew about it, and they quickly cancelled the bounty on Wei Liangchen. They couldn't afford to offend the people in the Legion. So the billion star coins that were about to reach my mouth just flew away. Wei Liangchen was so angry that he pretended to be a corpse on the spot. Then he went to the person who sold the information with a low pressure and a sinister smile on his face. He used coercion and inducement to collect 9 million from him. The reputation fee for betraying his information made him less angry. In addition to Wei Liangchen getting 9 million star coins from White Wolf with nothing, Bai Qianchun also met an unexpected surprise here. Shen Beining's second brother, Shen Bian, was actually put on the auction block and was being auctioned with a base price of 1 million star coins. Bai Qianchun looked surprised. She knew about Shen Bian. When she took the Sheng family starship from the main star to the Jupiter star, Shen Bian was the person in charge of that starship. She also asked her about the shortcut method to improve the wood type abilities. Think back to the young master with handsome features and noble temperament, and then look at the young master who is now locked in a cage, wearing only a pair of pants and a thin transparent white shirt on his upper body, with his chest open, revealing his sexy collarbone and graceful mermaid line. The man, with a few fresh marks from whipping on his fair chest, and dripping with bright red blood drops, not only did he not look embarrassed, but also added a bit of sultry temptation. The rich women present were boiling with blood and started to cry. Fanatic shouts. His net worth also skyrocketed like a rocket, from 1 million star coins to 20 million star coins, which was twice as high as the previous news of selling Wei Liangchen. Wei Liangchen's eyes shone, thinking deeply about such a good business, why not go up and sell it himself? Bai Qianchun's eyes widened and he swallowed, but the next second he was covered by Fen Yuyu's hands with a dark face. Fen Yuyu leaned close to her ear with a low voice, gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "Don't look at him, he is immoral, he may easily get needle eyes if you look at him." Bai Qianchun. Wei Liangchen turned his head and slightly curled his lips. "Sister Chun, this man is really jealous." However, even though Fen Yuyu was jealous, he still reluctantly offered to take the photo of Shen Bian. In the private room, there was a knock on the door, and the waiter's voice came from outside, "Hello guest, your auctioneer has been sent over. Come in." Bai Qianchun and Fen Yuyu, who had taken Yurong Dan, were sitting on the sofa in the box enjoying the delicious fruits. Fen Yuyu's voice sounded faintly after hearing the sound. Then the door was pushed open, and Shen Bian, who was shackled on his hands and feet and was limp, was helped in from the outside. Fen Yuyu raised his chin towards the flattering waiter and said arrogantly, "Put me down and you can get out." "Yes, yes." After the waiter put the person away, he quickly nodded and bowed out, and closed the door considerately. Then several people in the box turned their eyes to the man who was lying limply on the ground. Shen Bian panted and sat slumped on the blanket on the ground, leaning against the sofa with his back, a humiliated and stubborn look on his face, his eyes staring at them with vigilance and anger. No, to be precise, he was staring at the only woman in the box, Bai Qianchun. "You, what do you want?" As he spoke, he shrank back warily, as if he was afraid that she would pounce on him. The corners of Bai Qianchun's mouth twitched. Did she look like a hungry woman? Fen Yuyu's face darkened. He stood up and walked over, took a coat and hit it hard on Shen Bian's face. He gritted his teeth and glared at him, "I took the photo of you. Look at my wife, what to do?" Shen Bian was startled when he heard this familiar voice. He pulled down his clothes suspiciously and stared at Fen Yuyu's handsome but unseen face carefully. After confirming that he didn't recognize it, he became wary again, and then he blushed a little. An indescribable expression appeared on his handsome face. You, a man, still have that hobby. When Fen Yu heard this, his skull was so angry that he roared, Shen Laoliu, if you don't want to live anymore, I can give you a ride. This familiar tone. Shen Bian opened his eyes wide and said in shock, you Feng Xiao. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 495. Fen Yu looked at him condescendingly, then turned away his eyes and snorted, mockingly saying, you have been working hard in Tanlang Star for so long, but you still haven't made any progress. Then Fen Yu directly threw the bill in his face, I spent a total of 30 million star coins to buy you, and you will pay me back double when you return to the main star. Shen Bian's bright eyes suddenly froze, with a sad look on his face, why are we talking about money at such a touching time? Noticing his look, Fen Yu glanced over and threatened with a smile, why, if you don't want to pay it back, then I'll send it back to you. No, 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 don't send me back. I won't go back until I die. Shen Bian immediately grabbed the sofa and shook his head like a rattle, with a look of fear on his face. Bei was placed on the stage like an exhibit, with such a shameful appearance. Shen Bian blushed so hard that he could bleed. He just wanted to die. This kind of experience once was enough. He was afraid of having it again. He would go crazy, especially when he saw the fat and seductive women below waving signs and staring at him like wolves and tigers while bidding wildly. He felt that he might be suffering from gynophobia, and he no longer wanted to see women in the future. Seeing that Fen Yu was still thinking, he quickly added in panic, don't say twice, 3 times, 3 times. If you help me take me back to the main star, I will give it back to you. Fen Yu nodded his chin with satisfaction, that's pretty much it. Then he sat back with a smile on his face and a happy mood, stretched his hand to the side, took his wife's little hand and started playing with it. At the beginning, the eldest sister wanted to match his daughter-in-law with the old man Sheng in front of her. Looking at the down-and-out appearance of him who was almost sold to warm the bed of a rich woman, is it worthy? The contempt of the Fenja Jade King. Bai Qianchun glanced at his long, slender hands with clear joints that were grabbing hers and playing with them. She raised her eyebrows slightly and said with a smile, you can earn twice as much if you change hands. You can earn it pretty quickly. Fen Yu immediately straightened his back and said flatteringly, it's all thanks to you, my wife. If you hadn't come to the free trading market, I wouldn't be able to make a fortune from it. I will hand over the property as soon as I get to the main star, then my money will be your money. Bai Qianchun raised her lips and glanced at him in a good mood, well, then I'll give you some extra pocket money. Fen Yu's eyes suddenly lit up, and he nodded in surprise, okay, thank you, wife. Shen Bian buttoned up his shirt, put on the clothes Fen Yu gave him, and immediately saw the dog-legged Fen Yu. His expression suddenly became speechless, and he muttered in disgust, why don't you be so dog-legged? Idad's razor-sharp ears aren't even that bad. Fen Yu's face froze, he glared over, and said with a smile, you bachelor know nothing, but tell me what happened to you on Greedy Wolf Star? Why did you put yourself up for auction? I went to Taiwan, but fortunately my identity was not exposed, otherwise I wouldn't be able to buy it with more than 20 million star coins, so I would have to rob it. Shen Bian choked, moved away with evasive eyes, and said hesitantly, that's all, I got caught accidentally, and then those people thought I was handsome and sent me up for auction. Fen Yu was suspicious, is this really true? Bai Qianchun also turned around and looked at Shen Bian, obviously very interested in what happened to him. Shen Bian felt uncomfortable being stared at by them and several other unknown faces in the box. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Finally, his face collapsed and he simply talked about his blackmail history. It turns out that the Sheng family starship was attacked inexplicably by mercenaries from Greedy Wolf Star, and he was almost poisoned by his best friend. He felt deeply that he was incompetent, so he was determined to help the family find out what was behind the Sheng family starship's attack. Therefore, after the initial operation of the Sheng family starship, he volunteered to sneak into the greedy wolf star, intending to rely on his own ability to find the person behind the scenes, and gain some experience along the way. But who knew that everything would be different from what he had planned after arriving at greedy wolf star? Everything he relied on was like a wild horse that would never come back. First, they encountered a wave of Barlow Club as soon as they set foot on greedy wolf star. The fight with the church separated him from a few people who came with him. He was also injured and was picked up by a dark and skinny little kid. This is nothing, the injury can be treated, and if he is separated, as long as Guang Nao is around, it will be a matter of minutes for him to contact the person. But his mistake was that he mistakenly believed that the kid who picked him up was a good person. After the kid cried and said that he had no money to drink nutrient solution, he believed him and actually transferred money to him to repay his life-saving grace. But as soon as he finished transferring the money, the little kid showed a sinister smile and knocked him unconscious. When he woke up again, he found that the little kid had used some method to dig out the optical brain implanted in his body. Good guy, this will directly cut off his future. He was a young master of the Sheng family who wanted money, people, identity, and status, but he was directly reduced to a gangster without a brain, and then he was like that. The child's screams in the nest were unresponsive every day, and the screams on the earth stopped working. The grown man almost cried like a dog. Looking at Sheng Bian, whose face was filled with depression and anger, Wei Liangchen raised the corners of his mouth and sneered slightly with unknown meaning. You should be lucky that that little brat didn't end up being bad, didn't directly kill you, and gave the nest to you. Sheng Bian choked in grief and anger, and glanced at him sadly. Who is this man with a sinister smile? Can he speak? Shouldn't he be comforted at this time? Feng Yuyu, who was listening with great interest, saw someone stop and urged him dissatisfiedly, keep going, why did you stop? I was listening very interestingly. Sheng Bian choked again and almost rolled his eyes. He is no longer a good brother, he thinks he is just listening to the book, and he is listening to it in a funny way. This is obviously his tragic reality. Can there be some compassion between people? Unfortunately, the other party was the creditor's father, who would always threaten him and send him back to the stage for the rich women to continue fighting over him. Sheng Bian knew the current affairs and did not dare to talk back, so he could only continue talking aggrievedly. The previous ones were just the beginning of his tribulations on Greedy Wolf Star. When he was crying in the child's nest and didn't know what to do, fortunately, the people from the Black God cult came to their slum to recruit younger brothers. Sheng Bian's desolate appearance as an injured gangster just met the recruitment requirements. He himself also thought about it. He originally wanted to sneak into the internal investigation of several forces in Greedy Wolf Star, but this opportunity just happened to come to his door. Of course he got on immediately. So, Sheng Bian was lucky enough to be recruited as a younger brother of the Black God sect after he had just had a hungry meal, and naturally entered the force. After entering, he surprisingly managed to do well. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 496. The Black God cult is actually not as vicious as the outside world reports, especially the boss of the Black God cult, Mi Biao. Although he is tall and tough, with 2 fierce scars on his face, he looks like a bully, but he is actually a better person than the others. The power is more friendly and friendly. Because he has set a bottom line rule for the Black God sect, the elderly, the weak, the sick, and the disabled will not be killed unless they commit heinous crimes. Moreover, although their purpose is to keep their mouth shut and cannot leak secrets after they fail the mission and are caught, it will not be leaked if others guess it. When the time comes, he can also choose how to deal with these people who failed the mission when they come back. Handle lightly. Because of this, the orders placed by the Black God Sex employers have never been able to catch up with those of other forces. But also because of this, the Black God Sex younger brothers love him very much. There are more and more younger brothers, so the force has never collapsed. On the contrary, Zhenjiang is on par with the other major forces on Tanlang Star. If the people in the Tanlang Star slum were given a questionnaire and asked which force they most wanted to join in Tanlang Star, then the Black God sect would definitely have the most choices and be ranked first. In fact, the Black God sect has indeed lived up to their high popularity, and their treatment of their younger brother is also very good. Shen Bian said after personal experience that he cannot be picked up and beaten, but the Black God sect still did not drive him out. For the sake of his pretty face, the Yanggu steward above him took special care of him and assigned him relatively easy tasks, such as cleaning up the battlefield, running errands for others, etc. If you don't have any big ambitions, this is fine. You can live your whole life without worrying about food and drink, and your life is not in danger. But this is not what Shen Bian wants. What he wants is to climb up. Only when he climbs up can he have the authority to find out who originally issued the mission on Tanlang Star to deal with their Sheng family starship. So Shen Bian racked his brains to figure out how to climb up, and the opportunity suddenly came. They wanted to find a good-looking and obedient person to be the follower of the Black God Sect's sister-in-law. This is the sister-in-law of the Black God Sect's Mi Biao. Her original name was Kikai. Later, she changed her name to Rong Kikai after a trip. She has a special status in the Black God section in terms of seniority, she is even taller than the top. The boss killed Biao. So Shen Bian immediately seemed to have grasped some promotion code, and excitedly signed up to become this young ant's follower. He defeated 5 levels and killed 6 generals along the way, and tried his best to finally get the position of follower. But he never expected at that time that what he thought was a shortcut to promotion would turn out to be a huge pitfall. This little ant was really capable of causing trouble. Today, I smashed up the Barrow Society and rescued a little girl who was favored by the upper class of the Barrow Society. Tomorrow I met the boss of the Four Symbols Society and ruined one of his carefully planned plans, and the day after tomorrow, I broke into the temple, stole their treasures, and rescued their traitors. In short, this little ant's life is endless, and she keeps getting into trouble. His follower also suffers, and life begins to get rough. He didn't find out anything and didn't say anything. He was also implicated by this little ant to several other forces on the Greedy Wolf Star. Targeted. The reason why Shen Bian was caught on stage and auctioned in this way was probably because of this ant. He followed her and accidentally heard a shocking secret. He heard that there seemed to be something in the church. He has connections with the second Prince Qin Yujin, and even the Holy Church relied on Qin Yujin's financial support in the first place. He couldn't bear it when he heard the secret. It happened that there was a great opportunity in front of him yesterday to investigate, and he went without any surprise. Unexpectedly, he happened to be caught by the people of the Holy Church. Fortunately, his identity was not exposed. The Holy Church only thought that he was Rong Kikai and suddenly wanted to cause trouble, so they sent him to find out. So the people of the Holy Church planned to disgust him. Rong Kikai took him to the auction and sold him. They deliberately did not invite anyone from the Black God cult to this auction. If Feng Yuyu hadn't been there, he was afraid that some rich woman would have stolen his innocence. No guarantee. After hearing his whole experience, everyone finally showed a hint of sympathy for him, but soon their attention fell on the matter of the Holy Church and the second Prince Qin Yujin. Bai Qianchun turned to look at Feng Yuyu and asked with some curiosity, "How is Qin Yujin doing now?" Feng Yuyu frowned and replied, "The two empires have signed a contract to establish diplomatic relations, and he is useless. The crimes he committed before were enough to kill him more than 10 times. When we return to the main planet this time, he should be publicly tried and executed. When? Oh, that temple. Fen Yuya pursed his lips, his eyes became deep and serious. I will report it to the police for a thorough investigation. If the news about Shen Laolio is true, then the greedy Wolf Star Temple will no longer exist. There are others involved, as long as being implicated in the crime of betraying the Empire will be dealt with more severely under the laws of the Empire. Shen Bian's eyes lit up when he heard this. Okay, the place in the church should have been gone a long time ago. The man named Han Yi, the boss of the church, looks gentle and bright like a holy sun, but in fact he is a crazy critic, and his methods are extremely cruel. Burning people alive, skinning them alive, etc. are all despicable methods he came up with. Bai Qianchun and the others in the box listened to what Shen Bian saw about the temple, and they all frowned in disgust. Only Wei Liangchen looked leisurely, as if he had expected it. He had been able to take away such a large amount of wealth from the major forces in Greedy Wolf Star before. Naturally, he had investigated the several forces in Greedy Wolf Star. Not to mention having a thorough understanding of them, but what was their general situation? I do know. Indeed, as Shen Bian said, the Black God sect is the most merciful among the forces on Greedy Wolf Star. Although the Holy Church has a nice name, its methods are the most ruthless. There is no lower limit on the docking tasks. As long as the bounty is enough, they will do anything. So with a smile on his lips, he proposed enthusiastically, how about I do the job of searching the church's homes and arresting people? The church was extremely rich, and he might still be able to make a fortune by confiscating its properties. Bai Qianchun glanced at him speechlessly. Now it was him who was after money. Just when Shen Bian also heard the interest and eagerly wanted to search the house, a loud noise suddenly came from the auction house. They subconsciously tightened their bodies and turned their heads to look into the auction house. They saw a young hot girl in very cool clothes standing in the middle of the auction house. She was waving a red whip in her hand, and the whip was hooked on the auction table. The huge iron cage hit the location of the Templars below. That little hottie is none other than the little ant Rong Kikai that Shen Bian mentioned before. I saw Rong Kikai standing on the auction stage, shouting fiercely at the people in the church, "Hand over my people, or I will destroy this auction house." I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 497. Shen Bian's eyes lit up, and before he could stand still, he staggered towards the box and looked at the glass of the outside auction. He pressed his face against the glass and looked excitedly at the situation in the auction house, shouting excitedly, "Let's fight, let's fight." Bai Qianchun and others in the box glanced at him, their faces speechless. A little girl made a big fuss at the auction house because of him. How dare this man lie here and watch and gloat? However, they were quite happy to watch the excitement, especially after hearing about the great achievements of this black god cult sister-in-law from Shen Bian. I'm sure this situation will be turned upside down. Ya Yang even took out a handful of melon seeds and planned to eat them while watching a show, but he didn't expect that the people from the temple who were pointed out by his aunt were so spineless. Not only did they fail to fight, but they also revealed the truth that they had been bought. And even pointed out the box where Bai Qianchun and the others were. Wow, I can't stand watching the live version of the fight scene that causes a scene at the auction house. Whether it's treachery or the people in the church being treacherous, this is a naked attempt to divert trouble to the east. A minute later, Rong Kikai rushed up and kicked open the door of the box in a hurry. Behind them were a group of curious onlookers, looking through the door of the box. There was obvious schadenfreude in their excited eyes. They all clenched their fists and seemed to be shouting in their hearts, "Fight, fight." Bai Qianchun and others, good guy, originally they were the ones watching the show, but now they are the ones watching the show. Looking back, Shen Bian, who was lying by the window, immediately changed his face when he saw Rong Kikai. He leaned over and said happily, "Sister-in-law, you came to save me." Rong Kikai kicked open the door with an angry face and felt that something was wrong in the room. The scene she imagined of her handsome and spineless little follower being raped and crying did not exist. On the contrary, the little follower was wearing clothes. He seems quite energetic and active. How fat is this? Shen Bian seemed to sense her doubts and immediately explained enthusiastically, "Sister-in-law, let me introduce you." Then he pointed at Fen Yu and said, "This is the brother my sister recognized outside. He was the one who just photographed me and saved me. And the one next to him is his wife, calling." He turned to face Bai Qianchun, looked over, looking embarrassed, "What's your name?" After he came to Greedy Wolf Star, he was basically cut off from the outside world. He still knew the basic information. After all, Greedy Wolf Star was a place full of news about hiring people. He also had no shortage of sources of information in the Black God religion, but because he had lost Guang now couldn't contact his family, so he didn't know much about the current situation of Fen Yu, his relatively familiar brother. He had only heard about it on the Star Network. Fen Yu glanced at Shen Bian speechlessly. "Bai Qianchun, my wife's name is Bai Qianchun." "Oh, Bai Qianchun, this is his wife Bai Qianchun." Shen Bian grinned and said to Rong Kikai awkwardly. But she saw Rong Kikai staring at Bai Qianchun's face with surprise and suspicion after hearing the name. "What's going on? There must be too many people named Bai Qianchun recently, but none of them can compare to hers. Sister Chun's." Rong Kikai hummed and thought, but she saw Bai Qianchun walking over to her with a smile. "Kikai, long time no see." This voice, Rong Kikai glanced at Bai Qianchun's face, her eyes widened. "Sister Chun." Bai Qianchun laughed, "It's me." Rong Kikai suddenly became excited. The cool and domineering little hottie turned into a little fangirl with bright eyes. Then she ran up and squeezed Fen Yu away from Bai Qianchun's side, and put her arm around Bai Qianchun's arm. He said in a cheerful tone, "Sister Chun, why are you here at Greedy Wolf Star? Are you here to find me? Ah, by the way, I sold out all the pills you gave me before, and they were sold to 30 times the price." Selling. Fen Yu, who was squeezed out of the way, looked unhappy and stared at Rong Kikai, who was snatching his place with a pair of peach blossom eyes. Shen Bian, who was left behind, also looked confused and glanced at Fen Yu blankly. "What's going on? Your wife and my sister-in-law know each other." Fen Yu grinned at his teeth pitifully. "I want to ask too." Bai Qianchun winked at Ye Yang, and Ye Yang immediately shut the door of the box obsequiously, blocking out the eyes that were gloating about the good show. The people in the church who were waiting to watch the show and the people who were waiting for a fight looked at the tightly closed door and had no choice but to leave. It seemed that they couldn't start the fight. In the box, Bai Qianchun and Rong Kikai each explained the reason for their acquaintance. After breaking up in Yao Guangxing, the two have always been in contact. Rong Kikai took shortcuts from Bai Qianchun and bought medicine at high prices many times. The two of them became more and more familiar with each other. Later, Rong Kikai rescued the person who offended the temple, that is, Lin Kuikui, who had previously played Bai Qianchun and came to Muyuan Star for asylum. Bai Qianchun cooperated with Rong Kikai because of lack of money. Children's secret business. Many of her pills were sold at sky-high prices on Tanlangxing's black market. Bai Qianchun was really greedy for the price, so she teamed up with Rong Kikai to start a small business that doubled the price. As a result, although the two have not met each other a few times, their relationship is getting better and better. After talking about how the two got to know each other, Bai Qianchun talked to her about the Holy Church and the second Prince Jin Yujin. Compared to Shen Bian, who was just a small follower and only heard the news once, Rong Kikai obviously knew more. When she heard that Bai Qianchun wanted to investigate the temple, her eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, this news is true, Rong. I found out from my eldest grandnephew. There is still evidence from my eldest grandnephew. I have long seen that the people in the church were unhappy. This time they dare to touch my people. I will definitely make them pay the price, otherwise they would really think that my little ant is easy to mess with. If I get the chance this time, I will definitely press them down and make them disappear from the greedy wolf star. After finishing speaking, she pulled Bai Chun out with an eager look on her face and said excitedly, "Sister Chun, I will take you to see my eldest grandnephew now. When will we go and destroy the church?" In the past few years, the Holy Church has made a lot of money. It has taken a lot of big orders. Even the Sheng family dares to mess with them. Sooner or later, we have to finish the game. Why don't we get rid of them first? I even learned something unexpected from a little guy in the Holy Church. I know where they hide their treasures, and I don't know if it's true. I'll definitely go look for it when I raid their lair. Good guys, these two are all thinking about other people's wealth and want to rob other people's homes. Shen Bian pricked up his ears and let out a sigh in his heart. What an unexpected surprise. I heard that my aunt meant that the previous attack on their Sheng family starship was caused by someone from the Holy Church. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Luzi. Chapter 498. How long can we keep dancing around when the three guys, Wei Liang Chen, Shen Bian, and Rong Kikai, are thinking about where the church is? After getting the evidence from Rong Kikai and her eldest nephew, Bai Chun, and Fen Yu acted quickly, and immediately 3 teams were mobilized from the Legion to come over and cook the temple in one fell swoop overnight. That night ghosts cried and wolves howled, and the sound of mourning filled the fields, making a great noise. The next day, the people in the temple were escorted out one by one and lined up in a long queue like ancient exiles. The Imperial Legion had no intention of covering up their affairs. This battle frightened the other forces in Greed Wolf Star, which had become increasingly lawless in recent years, with horror. After that, they all calmed down and no one dared to stand out anymore. Only the sister-in-law of the Black God sect dared to jump up and down on the greedy wolf star with a whip. According to reliable information, the temple was raided, and it was also because of the sister-in-law. On the night the temple was raided, the sister-in-law personally took care of it. The team dug out a lot of treasures from it, and from then on, the news that my aunt was hooking up with the Imperial Legion spread on the greedy wolf star. The legend of this little ant has been circulating for decades after landing on Greedy Wolf Planet. But now this legend has followed Bai Chun from Tanlang Star to the main star. Bai Chun invited her to attend the wedding. Fen Yu couldn't wait any longer and was afraid that Bai Chun would regret it. On the way back to the main star, he had already told his family that they were starting to prepare for the wedding and that they would be able to hold it as soon as they returned to the main star. These days on the battleship, apart from hanging around Bai Chun, he was discussing the wedding with others, so he was very busy. As for Bai Chun, she knew what he was doing and didn't stop her. While Fen Yu went to discuss the matter, she sat with Rong Kikai, chatting and drinking tea, watching Shen Bian jump up and down chasing people. That's right, I don't know if he is used to being manipulated by Rong Kikai, but this guy is addicted. Although he said something bad about Rong Kikai, he soon became awakened by someone who didn't know who asked him to. After chasing Rong Kikai, he performed clumsy and flattering chasing routines every day, and then was beaten by Rong Kikai until he ran away, which contributed a lot of jokes. Bai Chun and the others were quite happy to watch, and he was there along the way. It was quite lively. In addition to the pair, Lin Qiqui, who had regained her original appearance and nature, also had a fierce fight with Lin Fiwei. Lin Fizhu also saved Lin Guiyan from his own injury because of his heroism on the asteroid, and finally succeeded in bringing her back. During this period, the young couple also made rapid progress and even rushed to get married. It is said that they will register their marriage when they return to the main star to prevent the Lin family from getting involved in Yechangmeng duo. Main Star Airport. Red silk and satin were floated, and colorful flower pots were placed. It looked lively and festive, and a banner was hung, "Warmly celebrate the triumphant return of the heroes of our Huayao Empire." Obviously, in order to welcome the return of several major legions, the main star has also put a lot of thought into it. When the army returned that day, there was a sea of people outside the starry skyport. Countless people came to welcome the heroes and watched the grand occasion. These people crowded the large open space outside the starry skyport. If it weren't for not affecting the traffic, the order and smooth flow of the streets also drove away some people, otherwise the sea of people would have been much larger. Fen Lanyan got up excitedly early in the morning, took Fen Tingyu with her, and called her father-in-law and uncle's daughter, Fen Tanggui, to come over and compete for the position. At this moment, they were standing in the front row, looking at the dense crowd behind them. Fen Lanyan's gentle face had a thankful smile. "Fortunately we came early, otherwise we would definitely grab the seat in front." "Not even." Fen Tanggui's eyes sparkled next to her and she nodded in agreement. Yes, second aunt, you have the foresight, otherwise we would have been squeezed into the crowd at the back. There are too many people here, it's a bit scary." In fact, arrangements had been made long ago, so even if they didn't come early, they wouldn't have to be squeezed in behind with other people. However, Feng Tingyu glanced at his wife's proud look, and the corner of his mouth curled up, and he didn't say anything about it. It was rare for his wife to be so happy, so he naturally wouldn't pour cold water on her. "Ah, Grandpa, where did you get this apple? Did you steal the fruit-potted plant that my sister-in-law gave me again?" Fen Tanggui suddenly shouted angrily, and saw her with her hands on her hips and a pair of beautiful big eyes staring at her. He looked at a handsome old man with a rosy face and good spirits standing next to him. The old man was holding a big red apple in his hand and making a clicking sound. After being caught, he didn't panic at all, and continued to chew, and smiled happily at his eldest granddaughter. "Didn't Grandpa pick an apple from you because he was hungry without breakfast?" "Granddaughter, please don't. If you are so stingy, Grandpa will give you back a big apple, bigger than your head." Fen Tanggui snorted and rolled her eyes. Her mouth was so pouted that it could hang on a bottle of oil. It was obvious that she didn't really buy what he said. It was easy for her to lock the small potted plant in the warehouse. How could he easily pry the lock off and get in easily? Moreover, Grandpa, a greedy little old man, has been caught by her several times, and every time he said he would return the favor, but now he has not even given her an apple leaf. She will definitely not believe it this time. Grandpa Feng pretended not to see his eldest granddaughter's expression, turned his head, hummed a little tune and continued to nibble on the apple. After nibbling one, he took out a strawberry and continued nibbling on it. Fen Tanggui's eyes widened. Oh my God, this greedy old man not only picked her apples but also secretly picked her strawberries. She was immediately furious. "No, I'm going to file a complaint with my sister-in-law." "Grandpa, you stole her sister-in-law's gifts, my fruit." Grandpa Feng froze while eating the strawberry. This was not good. He hurriedly put his flattering face towards her and said, "Don't worry, eldest granddaughter, you are still complaining at such an age. Your sister-in-law is someone who does big things. You are so don't bother her about the smallest things." Fen Tanggui raised her chin and spoke righteously, "No, I must let my sister-in-law know that Grandpa, you are a greedy old man who loves to steal fruits from your granddaughter." Grandpa Feng finally realized that his face turned red. He was going to be sued by his eldest granddaughter as soon as they met. How ridiculous. In order to prevent his eldest grandson from running away because of him, the old man licked his face and came closer. The eldest granddaughter tried to make her change her mind by saying nice things to her. "Granddaughter, good granddaughter, considering that Grandpa is so old and has only a few years to live, please save some face for your grandpa and me." "Humph, you have to save face now, but I am no longer the little brat I used to be who you deceived. Grandpa, you have long been an SSS level superpower. You have a long lifespan. It's only because you like to rely on your old age that you turn your appearance into you look like a bad old man. If you look younger, people will believe you when you say you are my brother. Seeing that his eldest granddaughter didn't want to do this anymore, Mr. Feng choked and lowered his attitude and continued to please her. Feng Tingyu and Feng Lanyan looked on with smiles. It was another happy and fun day for the grandfather and grandson. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 499. Oh, it's coming, it's coming. Tens of thousands of warships connected at the starry skyport one after another, and cheers and screams suddenly sounded in the starry skyport. The scene was spectacular and deafening. As soon as Bai Qianchun and others got out of the battleship, they were attacked by screams that pierced their eardrums. They were caught off guard. Then look at Feng Yuyu, who is being supported by her. His face is expressionless and calm, as if he has been used to it countless times and has no reaction. When Bai Qianchun looks over, he curls up the corners of his mouth and is considerate. He handed me a pair of pretty pure white earplugs. Good guy, I've been prepared for this for a long time. No wonder he looks so calm and unshakable. Wei Liangchen and others who were following behind looked at the pair of earplugs with envy. As people from all major legions came out of the battleship one after another, the screams of nymphomaniacs continued to brew. Ouch, look, that's His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. He is still so aloof, indifferent, dignified, and arrogant. He is worthy of being the next heir to our Huayao Empire. The video of him shaking hands with the Fox King signing the peace agreement in the previous video is so handsome. Huayao's #1 high-quality male god YYDS. I just don't know when His Highness the Crown Prince will marry the Crown Princess. Look at me and see if I can do it. Hey Tui, you may not be beautiful in appearance, but you are beautiful in your mind. The person who can be the Crown Princess must be a Star Lord, or be extremely wealthy, or be a top talent who is particularly outstanding in any field. Little Lord Feng can have it if a Star Master has a wife who is also very good at medical skills. The Crown Princess must be at a higher level. Ha ha ha, our Muyuan Star Master is already very, very, very powerful. We have defeated 99% of the outstanding women in the Empire. Can we find a woman who is better than her? Let alone expose the conspiracy of the Orc Empire this time. She was the one who rescued the real Fox King and promoted the formal signing of the trade peace agreement between the two empires. Her achievements are even greater than those of Major General Sheng. I think you are thinking nonsense about a woman who is better than her. Eve. That's right, now Lord Bai Xing, Duke Bai is the most outstanding representative of our female compatriots. Who can be better than her? The most likely candidate for the crown princess you mentioned before is Shui Ying, and she is the same. Not even a small fingernail can compare. Hey, look at little Lord Fen next to White Star Lord. His leg seems to be broken. It's incongruous for a monster to break a leg. It ruins the beauty. Let's see how he will dislike other people in the future. Hey. Humph, you know what the heck. This is a merit medal for protecting his wife. We have all seen the video of the scene where he rushed to protect his wife regardless of life and death. At the critical moment, he even risked his own life to save his wife. Oh, what a great love, such a man is a real man. I decided to retract my previous prejudice against Lord Feng. Although he is not a gentleman, and he is not hypocritical towards women, but he loves his wife. That's right, even though he has a vicious tongue and doesn't care about women, he loves his wife. If you are looking for a husband, you have to find Mr. Feng who favors one woman like this. All other women are bullshit. Only in this way can you be a good husband. So, without Feng Yuyu's knowledge that he had put earplugs in his ears to block his hearing, his reputation changed and he became the rising representative of the new good husband in the Huayao Empire. Here, with the support of Bai Jianchun, he has joined the excited 4 members of the Feng family. Mr. Feng's eyes were shining brightly as he approached Bai Jianchun and said cheerfully, "Daughter-in-law, I have finally met you. Feng Yuyu has hidden you like a treasure and guarded you to the death. Even if I do this, it's really shameful that you don't even show me grandpas. My granddaughter-in-law, you have to take good care of this kid." Looking at the handsome old man with an angry expression on his face, Bai Jianchun was a little confused. Is this Feng Yuyu's legendary grandfather? The old duke of the Feng family, the famous marshal of the Feng family with brilliant achievements? This is not at all what she imagined. It's enough to call him an ordinary old naughty boy. Feng Yuyu gritted his teeth and pushed away the wrinkled old man's face that came towards him with displeasure, and said disgustedly, "Don't get so close. Too many wrinkles will scare people. How old are you to complain? Thank you for being able to do it." The handsome old man's smile was frozen, and he glared at his eldest grandson angrily. "How could I complain? I'm obviously telling the truth." Feng Tanggui, who had listened for a while, came in angrily and said, "I won't complain, I will tell the truth. Sister-in-law, Grandpa stole the apple and strawberry potted plants you gave me again. Every time the fruit potted plants you gave me, it's hard to escape his evil hands. Together with my cousin, I often secretly eat all my fruits, leaving not even one for me. It's really bad." Feng Yuyu, who was quite satisfied with her complaint at first, heard the next sentence. The evil handsome face turned red, and her peach blossom eyes stared at Feng Tanggui faintly. This little bastard cousin sued his grandfather when she complained to him. It got involved. What is he doing? The grandfather and grandson looked at each other. One pulled back the unlucky eldest granddaughter to complain, and the other pulled Bai Jianchun to look at a couple with superior temperament and good looks next to Grandpa Feng. His voice was gentle, "Come on, my wife, let me introduce my parents to you. You can just call me Mom and Dad with me." Bai Jianchun smiled at the 2 people who looked at her gently. "Dad, Mom." "Hey, daughter-in-law," Feng Lanyan responded with a bright smile, took Bai Jianchun's hand and looked at her. She was so happy, and said happily, "I have been waiting for you on the main star for a long time. It's time. The whitening pills and beauty elixirs you gave me before are very good, and my little sisters are all envious of me for having such a great daughter-in-law." Bai Jianchun's smile really softened. "Really, it's fine if Mom likes it. By the way, Mom, what kind of fragrance do you like? I'm still researching fragrance skin pills recently. Taking one will give you a light body fragrance. You can customize a special scent according to your favorite scent." Feng Lanyan's eyes lit up and she was very interested. "Isn't this better than perfume? That's great. Daughter-in-law, you are so awesome. I happen to know a few special fragrances. When the time comes, our mother-in-law and daughter-in-law will let's study together." Bai Jianchun raised her lips and smiled. "Okay, Mom, come to my Muyuan star anytime. I can grow whatever incense you want there, and you can go to the laboratory nearby, which is more convenient. Okay, after you finish your wedding on the main star, I will go to Jupiter with you. I heard that Jupiter has a very beautiful scenery. Your dad and I have been traveling outside to see the scenery all year round, but we have never been to Jupiter. Well, I just have the opportunity to take a look. By the way, I have arranged your wedding. It is scheduled for tomorrow. I have reserved a few more tables in our Feng family's manor. Let's see what other friends you need to invite over there and ask them to come over tomorrow." Bai Jianchun, "Okay, let Mom worry about it. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 500. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law held hands and chatted passionately. completely forgetting about the father and son. Both father and son are serious wife control patients. The master who loves his wife deeply is also a jealous man. How can they tolerate this? After the father and son looked at each other, Feng Yuya coughed lightly and tugged on Baikin Chun's clothes. Daughter-in-law, it's too noisy here. Let's leave here and go home first. Feng Tingyu also blinked a pair of peach blossom eyes that were exactly the same as Feng Yuyu's, and nodded elegantly with a smile. Yes, wife, look at those people's eyes shining brightly, screaming and rushing towards us. Our son, you are handsome and your daughter-in-law is beautiful, but don't let them eat you. This sentence directly poked at the weak point. Feng Lanyan, who was trying to get Bai Qianchun to chat, suddenly changed his face and became worried. Yes, 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 husband, you are right. Our children are so good, so don't let others take advantage of them. Come on, let's get out of here and go home. So Feng Lanyan hurriedly pulled Bai Qianchun away from the crowd, leaving the father and son behind. Feng Tingyu, who was reaching out to take her peach blossom eyes widened in shock. Looking at his wife's back, he was confused. Is he still her most beloved husband? The person who was taken away at this time was not him. He raised his foot to follow, but Feng Yuya quickly put his hand on his shoulder. Feng Yuyu also looked sullen. Your wife took my wife away. There is no one to help me. Please help me. Feng Tingyu glanced at his feet, with a smile on her face, but the words coming out of her mouth were full of deep dissatisfaction. It's obvious that your wife is too charming and you can't control her. She seduced my wife and forgot about me, and you want me to be your human crutch, so if you think so, just jump over by yourself. As he spoke, he tossed his head and quickly caught up with the two people in front of him with a flattering smile. Honey, wait for me, you have left your husband behind. Grandpa Feng also hurriedly abandoned his unlucky granddaughter and followed him, muttering to himself, really, if you don't call me even when you go back, am I an old man who doesn't deserve a name? Feng Tanggui, who was left behind, still had some sense of conscience. She cautiously approached her abandoned cousin with a look of astonishment and shock on her face. Do you need my help? Feng Yuya came back to his senses and glanced at him lightly. No need. Then he took out a pair of crutches from the space tunnel and followed them quickly. It didn't look like his legs were broken at all. He walked more steadily and faster than ordinary people. Feng Tanggui looked at his walking back, her pretty face wrinkled, and she murmured, the weakness before love was all just for my sister-in-law. She obviously walks faster than me, bah, scheming man. After muttering, she stamped her feet and followed. On the same spot, the onlookers who were still standing not far behind the Feng family looked at each other with the word written on their faces. I never expected that Lord Feng Tingyu would be such a good scapegoat. What did they do wrong? They were standing behind them with restraint and politeness. At most, they were eavesdropping quietly with their ears pricked up. When were they going to rush in and take advantage? Indeed, they wanted to do it, but how dare they, not even taking a small step closer. Lord Feng overestimated their courage. Gee, both father and son are jealous. Is this a tradition of the Feng family? The Feng family left, but the starry skyport was filled with their legends. Hashtag the big vinegar jar seals off the family. Hashtag plastic father-son love. Hashtag the greedy old man sealed the old martial title. Hashtag fairy love between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Hashtag Mr. Feng and Miss Feng complained. Hashtag waiting for a series of topics to successfully break out of the circle and reach the top of the hot search, relying on fun and funny tricks to push down all the interviews with other heroic figures today, making the people of Star Network very curious about the Feng family. Therefore, the wedding of Feng Yuyu and Bai Qianchun attracted more attention and lively discussions. Bai Qianchun and his party, who had just returned from the outside world, were not aware of the disturbances from the outside world. After having a neat and happy meal as a family, Bai Qianchun and Feng Yuyu were sent back to their rooms to rest. However, the two people who returned to the room were not in a hurry to rest. At this time, Bai Qianchun performed the last treatment on Feng Yuyu's leg, reattaching the broken bones and making human flesh. In order to get Feng Yuyu's leg back to normal as soon as possible, apart from visiting the Wolf Star and being in a daze these days, she actually used Feng Yuyu's bones to cultivate a severed foot in the cultivation warehouse, and also used some accelerated shaping methods. The drug successfully grew a severed foot out within a few days. Feng Yuyu's broken foot has been nursed back to the point where it can accommodate the artificially cultivated broken foot. Tonight, she only needs to connect the broken foot to the gap in Feng Yuyu's ankle and take a healing pill. The wound will heal completely. There was no reason for Bai Qianchun's attempt to break off to fail. Within a few minutes, the broken leg had been reattached. On the surface, it looked exactly the same as the previous leg, with no color difference. Bai Qianchun breathed a sigh of relief and put a smile on her face. Okay, it looks like a success. You stand up and try to walk around to see if there are any unevenness. Okay. Feng Yuyu's peach blossom eyes sparkled with joy. If he said he was not happy or excited, it would be a lie. Tomorrow is their wedding. If he uses this broken leg to attend, it may cost him his whole life. Regret. It's fine now. His wife cured his leg before the wedding. Doesn't that mean that he can attend the wedding tomorrow without any regrets? He walked back and forth in the room twice without any discomfort. With bright eyes, he hugged Bai Qianchun, who was standing beside him, buried his face in her neck, and spoke in a hoarse voice with a low tone. He smiled dully and said, "Daughter-in-law, thank you." Bai Qianchun raised the corners of her mouth, put her chin on his shoulder, smiled softly and hugged his waist without speaking, but her eyes were softer than ever before. For a moment, the room was filled with a quiet and warm atmosphere. After a long time, Feng Yuyu eagerly let go of her. His Adam's apple rolled twice, his peach blossom eyes were dark and deep, and he couldn't help looking down at her pink face. Her cherry lips, she leaned forward cautiously and tentatively. Bai Qianchun lowered her eyes and did not avoid it. When that warm kiss touched her lips, her heart beat loudly and her cheeks began to heat up. In the quiet room, the temperature was rising steadily, and there seemed to be a sweet smell in the air. Suddenly, Bai Qianchun reached out to hold the big hand on her waist, blushed and turned her head away, breathing lightly. Okay, it's getting late, I'm going back to rest. Feng Yuyu broke away from her hand, hugged her waist stickily, looked at her crimson face helplessly and said, "Can't you sleep with me tonight?" Bai Qianchun raised her eyes and glared at him with a chuckle. "No." "Oh." Feng Yuyu looked at her aggrievedly, took a deep breath, and comforted himself. Tomorrow, after the wedding is held tomorrow, he will no longer have to sleep in a separate room with his wife.